Welcome to my YouTube channel, Wendy Layne Art. You can visit me on Facebook at facebook.com/Wendy Layne. You can see my Etsy shop at etsy.com/shop/Wendy Layne, or visit me on the web at www.wendylayne.com.
So I wanted to put together a real quick video demonstrating my colored pencil area where I draw, just so you can see how I set up my pencils and my camera and my area. First of all, these are my colored pencils, and there are a lot of different brands and colors, as you can see. I try to keep them grouped mostly by brand, because typically when I'm going to draw, I know which brand I'm going to use, and then I will sort by colors afterwards. If the brand that I have has enough colored pencils in it that I can sort by color as well, then I will. For instance, my polychromos, I have a large set, so I try to keep color tones together when I sort the polychromos by Faber-Castell. So I also have pencils that are in the back. These are my less used pencils. I started out with Prismacolors, and over time I just decided that a lot of the Prismacolors that I had were of poor light fast quality. So I put them back there for practices and for my daughter to use and for rare instances when I may or may need them. So for the most part, these pencils in this container that I had found from a toy store that was going out of business, this was like an organizing container that they sold, and I bought it from them, and I use it. It's an acrylic clear container with different layers that I can put my pencils in, and I use that to sort the ones that I use most of the time. And then when I get ready to actually draw, I create another little jar here at the front that's empty, and I will stick all the pencils in it that I need for the current drawing, at least for the first step or two. And then as those stop being used throughout the drawing, I may put them back and put the more used ones in that working jar. So I call this my working jar. It's right next to my table. I keep my luminance up front in these two little containers because I use the luminance the most. So I keep those there. I also keep a pair of magnifying glasses so that whenever I go to do something really tiny, I can sometimes use those to put on and really see the detail. I keep an electric eraser. I love the Derwent electric eraser. And so I keep that there all the time, that I use as a very handy tool, not so much for erasing mistakes as much as it is used for actually enhancing the drawing, which I demonstrated in some of my tutorials. I keep a paintbrush because I use the paintbrush to clear off the little pieces of pencil. I also keep my sharpener handy because a lot of the pencils, especially the luminance, will not work with my electric pencil sharpener. So I keep that right by me as well. And I keep my Prismacolor colorless blenders in a jar, which I use all the time. And any other accessories that I use frequently, I will put in this jar pretty close to my table so I can grab them, my Pitt pens and any blending tools or burnishing tools. And then I have my X-Acto electric pencil sharpener that I use for the majority of my pencils, and I keep that also by my table. When it comes to my table itself, I have a table that sits on top of just a standard old kitchen table or work table. And it is actually in a reclining position. This is about the position I keep it. I'm sorry, I don't know what the angle is, but you can see that I have it tilted back just to make it ease of drawing on my back. I don't have to scrunch over my table so much. Why is all this paper on here? What happens is this particular drawing is that I'm starting is about a 14 by 10, and the problem is that my clips on this table that are built in are really high. And when I clip my piece of paper up there, I end up with my picture too high, and then I have to reach to draw. So rather than doing that, I use a plain piece of newsprint paper, and I clip it onto the board itself. And then I tape on the very edge corners, clear tape, my actual drawing paper. Oops, I'm getting stuff on it already. My drawing paper gets taped on it in the position that I need it for my chair. My chair, I absolutely must have a comfortable seat, so I highly recommend these donut pillows for comfort for sitting for many hours. And then I use an iPad, and my iPad for my reference, for my photos is excellent. I really like it. There is some glare sometimes, and so typically I keep a printed piece nearby that I can just grab and look at if I'm seeing glare or I can't really get it. But the nice thing about the iPad, you can really zoom in and see the details of the drawing that you're making, so I really like using the iPad. I have the OttLite, which causes a reflection to sometimes show up in my iPad drawing, so it's, you know, manipulating it, moving it around so you can really see it helps. Also found that I kept dropping my iPad on the floor, so I started using these bulldog clips to clip it to my table so that it stays in place. And then I always keep it plugged in because it never fails. It dies because I forget how long I've been drawing. So that's what this paper is in the background. I will say, if you put the paper in the back and tape it, your own paper to it, you need to be careful to make sure that you're not drawing over this line where the two papers meet. Because if you are, you will see a clear indentation. You'll see a line in your colored pencil drawing wherever these two papers cross over, if that makes sense. So make sure and don't, you know, put this paper too high up here. It should come to the very bottom of your actual drawing. So that is a really nice method of actually keeping your table in order, together, right next to your iPad, right next to your reference material. It's tilted in the perfect angle for me so that I'm comfortable when I draw. I make sure I have a comfortable chair. I have easy access to all my pencils right next to me, including my working jar, which is the closest to me. And I always sit by a window so that I can adjust the light. In daylight is my favorite time to draw, but at night I do use the OttLite right here. One of my favorite OttLites is this freestanding one. It also comes with, it has a clip, so I use this for my video setup, and it has a magnifying glass, which I don't really use that much. I mostly use my magnifying glasses if I need it. As far as my video setup, yeah, it's kind of rigged. My husband was very creative, and I had an old OttLite stand, and it was perfect because it leaned forward in the right angle to be able to get on top of my drawing with my video camera. And he did a really good job mounting it. He used some Instamorph and created another ending, and then he had this little tripod, and he pieced it all together somehow magically. I call him MacGyver. And then he attached my video camera so that it looks down on my piece. And when I sit at the table, my head is most of the time not visible, and only my drawing is visible by the camera. As you can see right here, it's a perfect view of my drawing from the video camera. I hope to get a better setup one day with a more a tripod that's more designed for looking down on an area, but for now this works. For each drawing I have to prop it up with books. One of my favorite Norman Rockwell books serves a purpose, but so I have to like prop it up. I also have this basket here. This basket has some other tools that I sometimes use for edging, creating straight edges. I have my handy wrist protector because I have had carpal tunnel surgery and my wrist does sometimes get tired, and this is a perfect one that I got from Amazon for drawing, and it really seems to work, but sometimes it's difficult because you can't really get really close with a grip, and I tend to grip my pencil really tight. But if my wrist ever gets tired, I do use this brace quite frequently. If I'm using watercolor pencils, I have all my watercolor brush water containers right here. So pretty much that is how I set up to do my color pencil drawings. Lots of color pencils to choose from, but a clear, organized way of handling them. And after every drawing, when I'm finished with the piece, I will take all these, put them right back where they go in the containers, lay out my new table with my new piece and prepped, and then I will pull the proper pencils that I need to start for at least the first half hour of the drawing and I'll put them in this working jar and start working with them. And then every time it's just starting over so that I have a nice clean work area to start from. So just some little ideas. One more last thing I have is this clip wall. I got these clips from Pottery Barn Kids years and years ago for my kids, so I could display their artwork, and it turned out to be a great thing for me. Just a little print of a print proof sample, I should say, of my prints that I'm having done of one of my pieces called Jubilant, and of my art books. Those are some proofs as well, but the actual pieces were much larger than that. So my Patron bottle finished up on the wall. And so basically I use this area staging before I go and take them to get framed. There's one in the middle of a pastel drawing that I did from a picture I took in Europe. So this is pretty much my area. I hope this has helped in giving you some ideas or some inspiration on getting started with your color pencil drawings.